Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and hi everyone. So today I am teacher Adam and we are going to discuss together about past continuous tense. Okay, so the content that we are going to discuss together today is the form of past continuous tense, or how do we use past continuous tense, the functions and when do we use the past continuous tense, and also the examples of it. So before we move further, let's take a look at this timeline first. Whereas we know that in tenses, we have three timeline of tense, which is the past tense, the present tense, and also the future tense. So, as its name, when talking about past continuous tense, we are going to take a look at the past, something that has happened in the past. So, as you can see here, the thing that has happened in the past and it is before the present time. Therefore, it is counted as the past tense. Okay, so before we move further, when you read online or where you read in the book or something, you might find a term which is a past progressive tense. If you wonder what past progressive tense is, actually the same as past continuous tense. It's just that the name or the term used is different. So if you found these two terms, know that take a note that both are similar and both are exactly the same. Okay, so firstly, how do we use past continuous tense? So we use past continuous. How do we use past continuous tense? By using the verb to be was or were plus verb and plus ing at the back of the verb, at the end of the verb. So, why do we use was or were only? Why don't we use other verb to be such as am, is, or are? So, as its name past, we need to remember that this is the tense that we are using is in past tense. Therefore, we need to use past verb to be, which is was or were. Am, is, and are, those are verb to be that is in the present form. Therefore, we cannot use it and we only use either was or were. So, teacher, you might ask, teacher, when do we use was and when do we use were? To determine whether we should use was or were, we need to take a look at the subject. For example, if we use a singular subject such as he, it, the sun, the mountain, the building, and names such as John, we need to use was. For example, he here is a singular subject. So we use was, and the verb here is study. So we add ing at the end of the verb. So the sentence become, he was studying last night. And next, when we use plural, we use were when we are talking about plural subject. Some of the example of plural subjects are they, the children, my family and I, Rose and her friends, and the cars. So let's take a look at the examples here. They here is a plural subject. Therefore, we use were. They were playing. Play here is the verb, so we add the ing at the end of it. So the sentence become, they were playing football this morning. The second example is the buildings. So as you can see, there is an S here. So it means that this is a plural subject, which is there is more than one building. Therefore, we use were and we add the ing to the end of the verb, which makes the sentence become, the buildings were shaking due to the earthquake. Okay, so when do we use past continuous tense? Okay, we are going to take a look at two functions of past continuous tense. The first one is we use past continuous tense when we are describing an activity that was in progress around a time in the past. So as you can see, we are describing an activity or action that was in progress, but it is around a time in the past. Let's take a look at the examples in the sentences here. My mother was cooking dinner at 7 o'clock last night. Shahrul was doing his homework last weekend, and the cars were queuing at the drive-thru. Okay, so take a look here. Okay, like I have explained before, when we use a singular subject, we need to use the verb to be was. And we add the ing at the end of the verb. So the sentence become, my mother was cooking dinner at 7 o'clock last night. So as you can see here, it is an activity which is that was that was in progress around a time in the past. Whereas the sentence mean that at 7 o'clock last night, my mother was cooking dinner. Therefore, it is talking about something that was in progress around a time in the past. And next, Shahrul, again, here is the singular subject. So we use the verb to be, was, and doing here, do is the root verb. So we add ing at the end of it. So it becomes, Shahrul was doing his homework when? Last weekend. So last weekend, Shahrul was doing his homework. Okay, and the last one is the cars. Here there is an S, therefore it is a plural subject. So we use the verb to be, were. And the sentence become, the cars were queuing at the drive-through this evening. So it means that this evening, the cars were queuing at the drive-through. The cars were queuing at the drive-through is the activity that was in progress around a time in the past. The time in the past is this evening. Okay, so for the second for the second function of past continuous tense, we also use past continuous tense to describe an action that was in progress when another action occurred. Okay, so before we take a look at the example of sentences, I want you to take a look at the graph here first. So as you can see here is the past, present, and also future. Before this, we only I only circle one because there we only talk about one action. However, past continuous tense can also be used to explain about two actions that happen in the past, whereas the first action is happen here, and then the second action take place also here. However, you need to understand that both actions are still in the past tense. It happened before. It is to describe the action, the first action that happened when suddenly another action takes place. Okay. For example, I was doing my school project when my friend came to my house. The painters were painting the building when the police arrived. The children were playing football when the lightning struck. Okay, let's simplify this. Okay, like I have said before, we can also use past continuous tense to describe an action that was in progress when another action takes place. So here, I here is the subject. So I is a singular subject. So we use the verb to be, was. And doing here is the root verb of this is do. And we add ing at the back of it. So I was doing my school project. Here is the, I put it in the bracket here. It is the first activity that happened. And then suddenly another activity takes place, or another activity, another action occurred, which is my friend came to my house. Therefore, as we can see here, I was doing my school project. It is in the past, and then suddenly my friend came to my house. It is also in the past. So we are describing two actions that happened in the past. Next, the painters were painting the building when the police arrived. So here, the painters, there is an S here. Therefore, it is a plural subject. So we use were, and then this is the first action. Whereas the painters were painting the building, and then another action occurred. Whereas the police arrived. Therefore, this is the first activity, and this is the second activity that happened. Okay, so for the last example, the children were playing football when the lightning struck. So the children were playing football. It is the first activity, and the children here is a plural subject. So we use were. And the children were playing football is the first activity, and then the lightning struck. Another activity takes place. Okay, next. But teacher, okay, but then you might ask, but teacher, can't I say Ryan jogged when the volcano erupted? The teenagers went to the cinema when the accident happened, and the engineers worked when the landslide occurred. At the first glance, we may seem these sentences might seem true, right? Because we are still using the past tense jogged, when, which is the past tense of the verb go, and also work. These sentences seem true, right? Because all of this we are still using it in the past tense. However, no, you cannot use the sentences, because when describing two actions that happen in the past, you must, and you are required to use past continuous tense, and you need to use was or were plus verb plus ing. You cannot say Ryan jogged when the volcano erupted, whereas here there is two activity that takes place, whereas Ryan jogged and then the volcano erupted. There is two activities here. You cannot use Ryan jogged. Basically, the sentence is grammatically incorrect. And also, the teenagers went to the cinema when the accident happened. This is also an example of a grammatically wrong sentence. You cannot use this sentence, as well as the third sentence, which is the engineers worked when the landslide occurred. So because all of this it is wrong, because you are describing two activities that happened in the past. This sentence, when you are using this sentence, it is a simple past sentence that is in simple past tense. Therefore, it is wrong. So how to make these sentences true? So you need, like I said before, you need to use the past continuous tense. Whereas you need to say that Ryan was jogging. Ryan here is a singular subject, so we use was. And then we add the ing at the end of the verb. Whereas Ryan was jogging when the volcano erupted. This sentence is true because it is describing two actions that takes place in the past. Next, the teenagers were going to the cinema when the accident happened. This sentence is also true. Why? Because as we can see here, the teenagers is the plural subject, so we use were, and then this show that two activity that takes place in the past, whereas the teenagers were going to the cinema when the accident happened. And next, the third sentence is the engineers were working when the landslide occurred. So we know that there are two activities here, whereas the engineers were working and then the landslide occurred. Therefore, we need to use past continuous tense. You need to use the was or were plus verb plus ing, not just simply the verb in its past form. Therefore, the sentence that I show here before, this is wrong even though it is in past tense, because you cannot use simple past tense to describe two actions that happened in the past. Okay, so next, so far, we have taken a look at the affirmative type of sentence. However, you can also create different type of sentences using past continuous tense. Okay, for example here, when talking about affirmative sentences, we are like I have explained before, it is we use it by using was or were plus verb or ing. And ing. So here, he is a singular subject, so we use was. He was watching television last night. And Mike and his family, this is a plural subject. Mike and his family, so we use were playing board games 2 days ago. So this is an example of affirmative sentences. However, you can also create negative sentences, but the form is a little bit different, whereas you need to add the subject plus was or were and plus the negative word, which is not, and using and add the verb plus ing to it. For example, she was not sleeping when her friends asked her about the homework. So here, not here is the negative word. Therefore, it tells that she was not sleeping when her friend asked her about the homework. This sentence is in negative form. And the same goes with second example, which is the pupils were not studying when the teacher came to the classroom. The pupils here is a plural subject, so we use were, and then we add not after the verb to be were. Therefore, it becomes the pupils were not studying when the teacher came to the classroom. Another other thing than that is you can also form questions using past continuous tense, but you need remember you need to add the verb to be was or were at the beginning of the sentence, and then you add the subject plus the verb and plus ing. For example, you need to add the verb to be at the front. Were you listening to the music when your mother called you? So here, were is the verb to be, and you is the subject. So we use were you listening? And the second example is, was the wind blowing strongly last night? So the wind is an uncountable noun, so we count it as a singular subject. So we use was at the front. So as you can see, we use the verb to be at the front, and then we add the subject and then the verb plus ing. Okay, so if you have any question, you can just ask to me directly. Okay. So this is some exercise that I want you to do. This is because I want to check and measure your understanding about this, and then you need to submit this in the next class. Okay, and I think that is all from me today. If you have any question, just ask me, okay? Thank you and Assalamualaikum.